In example 7, we're given that angle A is congruent to angle E, and AE bisects BD. We're asked to prove that these two triangles here are congruent. At first glance it doesn't look like it, but diagrams may not be drawn to scale. So instead of doing that, instead of just making conclusions on what's drawn here, we want to make conclusions on the information that we know. Well, A here is congruent to E, and we want to write that down, by the way. And that's going to be given to us here in the start of the problem. So we've got angle A is congruent, oops, that's a pretty bad congruent mark, angle E, given, to AE, so that line segment bisects BD, and that is given to us. So AE bisects BD, or breaks BD into two congruent pieces. We're going to make a conclusion here then that DC would be congruent to CB. So we've got DC congruent to CB. Remember, AE is the one that's bisecting the other one, so BD is being bisected, not the other way around. The reason here why we can state those are congruent is it's just the definition of a bisector. So the definition of a bisector is that it splits or breaks apart either an angle or a line segment into two congruent pieces. We're asked to prove that these triangles are congruent, but I don't know if we can do that just quite yet. Notice how we just have angle and a side and an angle and a side. That's not enough to prove that two triangles are congruent here, and that might have been a little off the paper there, so you can see that here on the diagram. What we need to do is somehow get another piece of missing information. When I see this, I am also seeing a pair of intersecting lines, and I know that these two angles here will be congruent. Now you might be wondering, well, how can you just make that assumption? And it's not really an assumption. It is a valid mathematical fact here that vertical angles are congruent. And those are vertical angles right there, and we know that. The reason why we want to state that is because it definitely helps us on our way to proving that those two triangles are congruent. So let's look at the diagram. We've got side angle angle or angle angle side. Either way, and that is totally good for proving that triangles are congruent. So we're going to list that as our final step here. We're going to list triangle ABC. So there's ABC is congruent to EDC. Sweet. And we've done that using angle, angle, side, or you could list this as side, angle, angle.